Welcome, my maid. Even though she must know I'm here for a marriage introduction, this is the first thing she says. What? I let out a voice of confusion, thinking I must have misheard. My future mother-in-law Linda looks at me with a mean smile. Oh, you weren't the maid? You've got such a poor-looking face. And the fiancé I thought was on my side betrayed me in the worst way. Glancing at my face, David bursts out laughing. You're right, she does have a poor-looking face. I'd love to see her parents. Really? I wonder if your parents would faint from shock at seeing a house as wealthy as ours. Linda and David kept looking down on me. They even looked down on my parents. I couldn't stand it any longer. I sent a message to my father while Linda and David were not looking. My father immediately replied that he will come right away. I'm going to get some fresh air. I can no longer bear listening to David's insults. Don't run away. David's crude laughter echoes. I left the seat to wait for my father's arrival. 10 minutes later, I introduced my father Christopher to David and his mother. Here's the slave's father. His voice is calm, but his eyes are not smiling. Wait, father! Linda, knowing my father's face, freezes in a grand manner. I am Susan. Turning 30 this year. Working in a small company, I've lived my life trying not to stand out. Thus, my usual makeup is just foundation. And I prefer wearing navy or black. I don't wear contacts, and instead, wear thick glasses due to my high prescription. The reason for being so thorough is because my father had a high-profile job, and I've been influenced by it since childhood. My father is an actor. Apparently, he was quite popular back in the day, often surrounded by women when walking through town. Though a supporting role, he appears on TV quite often and is moderately well known. Middle school was quite tough because of my father. Classmates would ask for his autograph, and their parents would ask to meet him. Since I refused all these requests, I was often criticized. I must have seemed unfair to them. I even faced harassment from jealous classmates. I didn't want to trouble my beloved father. I also hated the thought of being seen as the one getting carried away. Struggling with these thoughts, I dressed plainly and went to a high school where no one knew me. Fortunately, I had a common surname, so I could live normally from high school. And maybe because of my plain appearance, men didn't approach me. Thus, I could enjoy a carefree student life. I loved talking about comics with my female friends, and those times felt like the happiest. I met my fiancé David after becoming a working adult. David worked for the leasing company of the copy machine our company uses. My direct interactions with David were minimal. David would regularly check on the copy machine, and we would exchange a few words during his visits. Our relationship took a significant turn when the copy machine broke. That day, I was busy preparing materials for a meeting happening the next day. But then, the copy machine stopped working. I was in trouble. Without it, I wouldn't be able to prepare the materials for tomorrow's meeting. In panic, I called David. He came quickly and checked the copy machine. Can it be fixed? I asked David anxiously, and he replied with a smile. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. I fell in love with David's smile in an instant. The rest is history. Unfortunately, the copy machine wasn't fixed, but David arranged for a replacement. We managed to prepare the materials in time for the meeting. Having fallen for David, I made an effort to get closer to him. I asked for his contact information and called him often. Then, I confessed my feelings to David, and we started dating. David was always very kind. He was always considerate, and I had never seen him angry. I thought he would continue to be kind even after knowing about my father. So, after dating for 3 months, I boldly proposed to David. He happily accepted. I remember being very happy. However, there was one thing I was concerned about. It was my appearance. I had always worn thick glasses. Even on dates, I dressed plainly. It's a habit that's hard to break. The real me looks just like my father, with distinct features. Because of my appearance, I was envied by girls in middle school. I've been judged by guys based on my looks before, and it's been tough. But I thought it would be okay with David. From now on, I thought of changing my appearance little by little for David, whom I love. That's what I thought. However, after getting engaged to David, I started feeling more and more uncomfortable. Before our engagement, David seemed like a kind person, but recently he started making remarks that seemed to look down on me. The other day, we went to a bridal fair to decide on a wedding venue, since David suggested it. The place David took me to was a dazzling world. It was a luxurious guest house, perfect for a large wedding with over 100 guests. Seeing that scene, I felt confused. I don't have many friends from my school days, and I didn't want to stand out, so I had hoped for a small ceremony at a small venue. I wanted to go home right away, but David seemed to be enjoying himself, so I couldn't bring it up. So, I endured and spent the time there. After it was all over and we stopped by a cafe, David was in a very good mood. The wedding venue we saw earlier was nice, wasn't it? I personally would like something even more extravagant, he said while drinking coffee. This could mean we end up choosing the venue we saw earlier. Feeling anxious, I decided to talk to David about what I wanted. I was thinking a wedding with just the two of us might be nice. I don't like standing out too much. I thought the kind David would surely compromise. However, the reality was completely different. David looked at me and laughed scornfully. Indeed, a plain girl like you wouldn't suit a venue like we saw earlier. There's probably no dress that suits those thick glasses of yours. What? I was bewildered by David's remark. Isn't a wedding about both families? My family is wealthy, and not having a certain level of wedding would be embarrassing, he continued. I was speechless. The David who had always been kind was now looking down on me as if he was a different person. I was deeply shocked by David's attitude. And to the bewildered me, David made an even worse comment. You should just keep quiet and do as I say. A plain woman like you should be grateful to be getting married at all. Suddenly, David became serious, throwing harsh words at me. I was so baffled by his remark. I even felt scared by David's words. Then the next moment, David smiled and said, I'll decide everything for you, so you just need to do as I say. Okay. I didn't know how to respond and just smiled awkwardly. Maybe getting engaged to David was a mistake. But it's too late to act as if it never happened. I've already reported our engagement to both our parents and my company. And despite all this, I still loved David. Maybe he would return to the kind David I knew before our engagement. So, despite my confusion about David's change, I had no choice but to continue with the engagement. David continued to make comments that troubled me. With each one, my heart grew more wounded. But I couldn't bring myself to hate David. Even when I thought about breaking up, the kind David I knew flashed through my mind. I still love David after all. Despite my confusion about David's change, I continued our relationship. And then one day, something happened that confused me even more. It was the day David and I finalized our wedding venue. After visiting several venues, David decided on the luxurious guest house we first visited. With pride, David said, I guess a lavish ceremony really suits me. It's unfortunate for you, though. David laughed, hurting me. And for the paperwork of the wedding venue, We went to that guest house with David. On the way, I encountered someone. "Oh, is that you, David?" "Mom, what are you doing here?" David looked surprised at the woman. Then David introduced her to me. "Susan, this is my mom, Linda." "Mom, this is Susan. She's my fiancé. I told you I was getting married, remember?" Linda greeted me with a smile. "I'm David's mother. You seem like a serious woman. Where do you work? You must be working at a major corporation, right?" This was my first meeting with David's mother. I answered nervously about my company and that I do clerical work. Then Linda made a puzzled face. "I've never heard of that company." That's when David joined our conversation. "Susan's company is one of my sales destinations. It's a small company with about 30 employees, so it's natural that you don't know it." Upon hearing David's explanation, Linda's face turned grim. "I thought since you were David's fiancé, you'd be working at a more reputable company. Doesn't that mean your salary is low? Are you planning to make David suffer?" "I'm sorry. Indeed, my salary isn't very high at my current company. That's why I had no choice but to apologize to Linda." Then, Linda sighed heavily and said, "Can you at least not rely entirely on David? Our family is of a distinguished lineage. We don't need a woman of unclear origin." "Okay." I responded to Linda's remark with confusion, but Linda became even more heated. "What about your parents? They work at reputable companies, right?" Linda glared at me with narrowed eyes. My father is." As I was about to answer Linda's question with confusion, my eyes drifted to her bag. Because I saw something familiar. Then I fell silent. Seeing me, David spoke up. "Come on, Mom, calm down. We're going to visit the house and make our marriage introduction soon." "All right, though I'm not really in a welcoming mood." Linda glared at me with a sour face. It seems my first impression on Linda was the worst. The path to marriage seemed too steep, and I secretly sighed. And then came the day of the marriage introduction. Wow. I couldn't help but mutter in front of David's family home. The scene before me far exceeded my expectations. Since Linda had mentioned that their family was of a distinguished lineage, I had expected David's family to be wealthy. But the reality before me was even more astonishing. The gate was automatic, there was an elevator inside. And there were even 10 luxury cars parked outside. Surely, they must be the hobbies of my father-in-law. David then spoke to me. "Dad is out for work today. It's just Mom, so make yourself comfortable," David said with a smile, but my face became even more strained. Linda had been harsh to me last time. Surely, she will make some sarcastic remarks again. Then, David and I entered the living room where Linda was waiting. "Hello. Thank you for the other day," I greeted Linda politely. The next moment, Linda said something unbelievable. "Welcome, my maid." Even though she must know I'm here for a marriage introduction, this is the first thing she says. "What?" I let out a voice of confusion, thinking I must have misheard. Linda looks at me with a mean smile. "Oh, you weren't the maid? You've got such a poor-looking face." A maid? How could she say something so terrible? Then Linda laughed with a look of enjoyment. "David told me. It's okay to treat you like a maid. It seems like David just wanted to marry someone who would do as he says. Too bad for you." "David, what do you mean?" I asked David with a pale face. It must be a bad joke. I wanted to believe that. And the fiancé I thought was on my side betrayed me in the worst way. Glancing at my face, David bursts out laughing. "You're right, She does have a poor-looking face. I'd love to see her parents. Maybe we could use her parents as our servants too. David laughs vulgarly. Indeed, having someone obedient for free is attractive. But if they come to a wealthy house like ours, I wonder if Susan's parents would faint from shock. Linda and David continue to look down on me. And Linda asks with a laugh, "By the way, what does your father do? He's not homeless, is he?" "That's not." Then David burst into laughter and replied to Linda, "Mom, that's not a job. Since Susan is like this, it's certain he doesn't have a stable job. I'm laughing so hard my stomach hurts." David and Linda continue to look down on my parents. They assumed my family's education was low and decided they must have a plain appearance. I grit my teeth in frustration, listening to their remarks. Linda and David were too rude. They even looked down on my parents. I couldn't stand it any longer. I sent a message to my father while Linda and David weren't looking. "I need you to come now." I also sent him the map to David's family home, which David had sent me for today's marriage introduction. I remembered that today was my father's day off. He must be relaxing at home right now. Fortunately, my father replied within a minute. "I'm on my way." Seeing my father's reply, I felt relieved. Then I spoke to David and Linda. "I'm feeling a bit unwell, so I'm going to get some fresh air." I couldn't bear listening to David and his remarks any longer. I thought I would wait outside quietly until my father arrived. That's what I thought. "Oh, is that so? Well then, David, why don't we continue our tea leisurely?" Linda seemed pleased to be alone with David. "Susan, don't you run away." David's crude laughter echoed. I left the seat and waited outside for my father's arrival. 10 minutes later, my father appeared wearing dark sunglasses. "Susan, what's wrong? Today was supposed to be your marriage introduction, right? I was surprised to be called out all of a sudden." My father asked me with a puzzled look. "Dad, I'm just so frustrated." Seeing my father, I felt relieved and started to cry. No matter how much I tried to hold back, tears kept flowing. "What's wrong, Susan?" My father began to panic seeing me cry. I explained everything to my father. How David's attitude changed after we got engaged. And how Linda joined him in looking down on me. "I can't forgive them for looking down on you without knowing anything about you." I couldn't stop crying as I explained. My father listened to my story silently. But it seemed he was quietly angry. Then I told my father something about Linda. At that moment, my father laughed. He took off his sunglasses and handed them to me. "We're going in now. I'll make sure they regret hurting you." I made up my mind with my father's words. My love for David had faded. All that was left was hatred. "I've made my decision. We'll make David and his mom regret it." I did something, then put on my father's sunglasses. Then, together with my father, we entered David's family home. I stood in front of David and Linda, bringing my father with me. "Sorry to keep you waiting." Me, standing firm with my father. Seeing me wearing sunglasses. "Why are you suddenly wearing sunglasses?" Linda, who initially laughed seeing me, became stunned upon seeing the man beside me. I realized people freeze when they are too surprised. Surely, Linda must have thought she could say something terrible again when I returned. But unfortunately for her, I won't let things go her way. I'm planning to drag her through hell instead. Linda must already recognize who my father was. Then, my father spoke to Linda. "I'm the maid's father." His voice was calm, but his eyes were not smiling. His handsome face made him appear even more formidable. What? Linda, who likely recognized my father, was shocked. How could this be? Why is Christopher here? Is this some sort of surprise? Linda spoke with agitation, her cheeks turning a bit red. Her eyes sparkled like those of a young girl. David seemed clueless, standing there stunned. My father didn't answer Linda's question, but kept staring at David and Linda. Linda blushed under my father's gaze. It's embarrassing for a woman of her age. I looked at Linda coldly. Then David, regaining his composure, asked in confusion. Christopher? Mom, is he a friend of yours? David probably doesn't know about my father. I guess he's quite well known among Linda's generation. But younger people might not know unless they watch dramas on TV. Then Linda glared at David. David! How rude of you! This man is a famous actor and my first love. What? David looked incredulous. Then Linda turned towards my father, smiling and speaking to him. I'm a big fan of you, Christopher. See, look at this. Linda brought out her purse to show my father. It's a keychain that can only be bought by a fan club member. I've been a fan of you for over 20 years. Linda began to express her admiration as a longtime fan of my father. Mom. David seemed appalled by Linda's sudden change in behavior. Linda continued to speak to my father. Surely, the presence of her favorite actor had greatly elevated her mood. However, my father's gaze on Linda was very stern. Then, after remaining silent until now, my father finally spoke up. I understand that you're a fan of mine. However, did you try to treat my precious daughter, Susan, as a maid? Linda, who had been highly spirited until now, turned pale and froze. She trembled visibly, which was evident from her shaking. Ignoring Linda, my father continued. And you assumed I was homeless without even meeting me. That's quite rude of you. Saying so, my father glared at Linda. Linda started to panic. No! I didn't know Susan's father was you. Having you join the family is more than welcome. Right, David? Yes, of course. David seemed pushed by Linda. Then, Linda tried to justify herself to my father. I was dumbfounded listening to Linda. She had been looking down on me and my father until she saw him. And just like that, she changed her tone. It was nothing but distrust. If you look closely, Susan is a wonderful woman who resembles Christopher, and my earlier comments were just out of jealousy for fear of losing my son. If I had known about you, I would have behaved more politely. Linda desperately tried to make amends. My father looked at her as if she was bothersome. Watching their interaction, I thought, I can't let my father be troubled any further. This was my issue. I should be the one to speak up to Linda. So, I told Linda, I'm breaking off the engagement with David, so there's no way you'll become family with Dad. What? Susan, I'm sorry. This is my chance to become family with Christopher. Please reconsider. Linda tried to persuade me with a face that looked almost tearful. After all her terrible behavior towards me, even her tearful face couldn't be trusted. I looked at her coldly. Yet, Linda thought she could somehow convince me seeing me silent. She smiled at me. You want to marry David, don't you? I won't oppose to it anymore, it's okay. I'll do anything for you. Linda clung to me, desperate to become family with my father. Her willingness to do anything was the complete opposite of her initial stance. I felt contempt for Linda, who changed her opinions so frequently. I murmured softly, No, Thank you.
What? What did you say?
Linda tilted her head, as if she hadn't heard me. So, I shouted louder this time.
I absolutely do not want to become family with you. What?
Linda was taken aback by my outcry. I confronted Linda with my feelings.
You made derogatory remarks the moment you heard about my job. And you spoke terribly about my father. I can never forgive that.
I made my stance clear to Linda.
But,
seeing Linda turn to my father as if realizing persuading me was futile, she spoke to him with a smile.
Susan says this, but Christopher, you want your daughter to be happy, right? Our family is wealthy, and surely your daughter will be happy with us.
Indeed, some people might think happiness comes with money. But not me. Perhaps understanding my feelings, my father countered Linda's words.
Susan values love over money. Besides, our family has money. I, being an actor, earn a decent amount.
Linda was at a loss for words. It wasn't surprising. After all, my father is a famous actor who frequently appears in dramas and doesn't struggle with money. Given our family's wealth, there's no merit for me to marry just for money. Linda fell silent, likely unable to come up with a good counter-argument. Then, seeing Linda silent, my father continued.
You say you're a fan of mine, but I despise someone who neglects my precious daughter. Could you please not call yourself a fan anymore?
Saying that, my father glared at Linda. Then Linda burst into tears.
If Christopher hates me, I won't be able to live.
Linda sobbed uncontrollably. Until now silent, David began to speak.
Seeing me silent, you've been making quite a remark, Susan. You'll regret it if you break off our engagement. No one will want someone like you.
David laughed.
Wait a minute, David.
Linda, concerned about my father, tried to stop David. But David didn't stop.
I chose a plain woman like you thinking you'd be obedient. I was planning to cheat on you with cute girls once we were married. So annoying that my plan's not going to work anymore.
Hearing David talk about things I hadn't even asked, I calmly realized. There was never any love from David. He just wanted a convenient woman who would obey him. My love for David had long since faded. While I was thinking this, David kept making selfish statements.
You!
My father gritted his teeth, looking like he might grab David any moment. It seemed like my turn to fight back.
Dad, wait!
So, I stopped my father. I let out a smile while still wearing my sunglasses.
What's up?
David seemed a bit taken aback by my composed smile.
Is this still plain?
I took off the sunglasses I was wearing with a flourish.
What?
David froze, looking at my face. It was only natural. I had applied makeup after meeting my father and crying. Normally, I only wore foundation. But now, I had on eyeshadow, mascara, and eyeliner. I had done my makeup right after crying over meeting my father. Though it was just eye makeup, I think it significantly changed my appearance.
Is that really you, Susan?
David's face turned a bit red. He must have been mesmerized by my makeup-enhanced face.
Yes, it's me. I've always downplayed my looks to avoid standing out, but I've decided to stop hiding myself.
Until now, I stood out unwillingly because of my father. So, I had been modest to avoid attention. But being spoken ill of by David and Linda made me think it's okay to stand out a bit and show my true self. David, with a flushed face, said,
If you had been like this from the beginning, I would have been nice to you. Even now, we can start over. Come on, let's get engaged again. and introduce me to some beautiful actresses through your father.
Who would go on with the engagement now? And the audacity to ask for actress introductions. I made my stance clear to David.
The engagement is over. I don't need someone like you anymore. I'll cancel the wedding venue too. What?
David was stunned. But I wasn't about to let him off that easily. I continued to corner David.
Of course, you'll be bearing the cancellation fee for the wedding venue. That's only fair.
Linda exclaimed in confusion. Wait a minute. It's too much to bear the entire cost. David, looking perplexed, was unable to retort. Then my father spoke up.
Why not have David's father cover it? With all those luxury cars, it shouldn't be a problem, right?
My father said this with a refreshing smile. Here, I played my trump card.
If you're not satisfied, we can go to court. But remember, my father is a famous actor. News about this might provoke his extreme fans, who could retaliate.
My father has many enthusiastic fans. A critic who once bad-mouthed my father as a poor actor faced severe consequences. Prank calls, letters with knives, the extent of the harassment was unimaginable. It was even covered in the news at one point. Linda, recalling that incident, turned pale. She frantically persuaded David.
David, you must bear all the cancellation fees. We don't know what might happen.
Seeing Linda's expression, David seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation.
What? Are you kidding?
David fell to his knees, a look of despair on his face.
I don't need you in my life. Dad, let's go home.
Ignoring the dejected David and Linda, I left the place with my father. The engagement with David was thus broken off for good. And David ended up being responsible for the entire cancellation fee of the wedding venue. It turns out, my father-in-law is the head of a company, and my father had once appeared in a commercial for that company. Because of this connection between my father and my father-in-law, my father informed him about David and Linda's actions. Naturally unaware of the situation, my father-in-law was furious. He confronted David and Linda harshly. He even pressured David to bear the full cost of the wedding venue cancellation. As a result, David was saddled with a hefty financial burden. The repercussions extended to Linda as well. She was faced with divorce initiated by my father-in-law. Their treatment of us was one thing, but that wasn't the only reason. Apparently, Linda had a habit of wasteful spending. She had spent a considerable amount on fan activities for my father. The source of this spending was my father-in-law's money. It seems my father-in-law had already lost patience with Linda. Moreover, my father revealed that Linda had sent him rather inappropriate love letters.
I want to divorce and marry you, Christopher. My current husband is just a source of money.
She had written such content in love letters to my father. This enraged my father-in-law. Despite Linda's resistance, the divorce was finalized with the involvement of lawyers. I heard rumors that Linda,
This wasn't supposed to happen,
was living in tears, lamenting. Additionally, she was expelled from my father's fan club. She had engaged in quite troublesome fan activities, so it was probably inevitable. I can't imagine happiness coming Linda's way after losing everything. It's a case of getting what she deserved. 6 months later. Astonishingly, David was arrested. The reason was his stalking behavior towards me. Unable to forget me after I took off my sunglasses that day, David began to frequently appear in front of me. He started to loiter in front of my house. Even after I quit my job, he called me often,
begging me to reconsider the engagement, crying over the phone, I need you, no one else will do. but he was only fixated on my looks.
Then crying, David clung to his phone, but in the end, he was probably only looking at my face. It's a huge difference from before and after I put on makeup.
I don't need a man who only judges by looks.
I politely refused and then blocked his calls. However, David's actions only escalated. I consulted the police several times. And sometimes, I was threatened with danger. After much deliberation, I finally filed a report with the police. My father agreed with this decision. Ultimately, David was arrested for trying to forcibly enter our house. Following his arrest, it seems David was fired from his job. All that's left for David now is a significant amount of debt. Surely, he won't be able to lead a decent life anymore. It's the punishment for looking down on people so much. Since then, I have been working as my father's manager. The job is much more challenging than my previous clerical work. Managing my father's schedule, accompanying him on site visits, making rounds of greetings, to negotiating salaries. Previously, I was just commuting between the company and home as a clerk. I only occasionally talked to people in the office and mostly faced the computer. Now, meeting people has become the main part of my job, and I talk much more. It's a big change from before. However, I now find it incredibly enjoyable. Being a manager is a glamorous job, but it's not just about that. I support my father behind the scenes so he can concentrate on his acting career. The work hours are irregular, and adaptability is required. Above all, it's a job that allows me to support my father closely. I want to repay him properly for all the worry I've caused. It's a job I've just started. There will surely be many challenges. But I want to face forward and do my best. Beside my beloved father, I continue to do my best today.